What's up, y'all? Welcome to Truth About Him podcast, number one podcast about health and wellness. I'm Anthony.
I'm Barron.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the show. Welcome to another week. We are pushing along here, getting these things done. So we back for another week. How you feeling?
Absolutely. I'm here. I'm energized. I'm ready. This week was, I had an opportunity to use my EQ and be able to articulate myself in a stressful situation. I reached out. This is what we talk about. You know, we have a community. You reach out. So I reached out. You were there. Appreciate you.
Gotcha.
It was a really stressful week as far as hurdles and stuff like that. But fun fact, we got sons born on the same day.
Born the same day.
Bunch of Aries young men and men. So fun fact, that's crazy.
Yes, sir.
But how was your week?
Well, one is that with that, the connection's real, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the week was good, man. It's just, I think every week, every day, every week I have things that I've got revealed to me, things that I've experienced. And it's crazy because like last week I took a trip, right? And that trip, I've been there many times. I've been there. Actually, I live most of my life there, right?
Okay.
And during that trip, there were some good times, bad times, turmoil. There was just so much going on, right?
Right.
So I decided to leave the location, right? So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go experience something different, right? So last week I kind of sort of dipped my toe back in the in that section of my life, and
I like that metaphor.
it wasn't good, right? So basically I didn't go back to my old life, but I kind of cracked the door a little bit, just a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Nothing major, right? But it showed me why I left it. It showed me why it wasn't good for me. It showed me how it's just time for us, everybody, to have new experiences, to create things new. Because there's nothing that's for you is behind you, right? Yeah. Nothing. Yep. Everything that's behind you is back there for a reason, right? Whether it's from you or from them or from anybody, right? It's back there for a reason. Yep. And I believe sometimes we actually go back thinking that it's really funny how men think, right? I was having a conversation with a guy yesterday, and he was saying how sometimes us as guys, it's a mentor of mine. We're designed to be fixers, right? So we always think when something breaks down or something goes wrong, could I have said something different, done something different, acted different, moved different? And I'm like, shit, I thought that was just me.
No.
Right? But he's like, no, that's just part of being a man because we are wired to be fixers. Yeah. Right? So
it's our DNA.
Right. So every time something breaks down in my life, from far back as I can remember, it was, man, maybe if I would have said something this way, maybe if I would have moved that way, maybe if I would have said this, I will be okay. But that's some proverbial bullshit, right? Because there's really nothing that you can say to fix the other side in a sense, right? You can be you, you can move as you can just do you, but everything that you do is you, and you can think that if I said something different, things would be different, but most likely not. Make sense?
It makes sense, but the fact that you're looking internally is self-awareness. Right. So part of that's always a good thing when you are in a situation. As long as you instead of pointing a finger at something or somebody, you look and say, I had, like we always say, I had some culpability in that.
Yeah.
There was part of that was on me, but to solely focus on that and to deem it things would have been different totally if I would have changed. That is that you play a part,
right?
But you're not the writer, actor, director, producer. No, you just played a part in that in that movie. You didn't,
and that can be a constant. I mean, if you if you do it a few times, but if you're constantly thinking about what I can fix, maybe if I did this, that wouldn't happen, then I think there lies a problem because it can't always be you.
No.
It can always be me or you. It has to be it has to be equal responsibility on each part, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, the passport I had when I visited that life is in the trash now. It's torn up. So, and it's amazing how when you make a decision, because you know, man, this shit is not good for me. This shit is gonna do nothing but destroy me. This shit is gonna do nothing but destroy my kids and my future. And every single blessing God has for me is gonna be what's that, stifled maybe in a sense, or not achieved because we're stuck and we're blocking our own blessings and we're not doing or being called to what God has for us, right?
And not to mention, if you're always thinking about if I could have done better, if I would have done, if I would, if you live in ifs, you never move forward.
Yeah. Yep.
You never move forward. So you can't live.
There's an old saying when I was a kid. If was a fifth, I'd be drunk.
We'd all be drunk,
right? So, but that ain't our topic. But you know, our topic
we got sidetracked.
We got sidetracked, right?
Yeah.
Our topic is why men go silent.
Why men go silent?
You know, why do we
go silent?
Be quiet, and why do we not talk, and why do we not share?
Right. That silent, that proverbial silent treatment type of thing. Yeah. Why do we shut down, so to speak?
Yeah. And we like thinking about it now. We actually do, you know, shut down. It may not be something that's really like obvious, or maybe it is obvious, but in a sense, we stop and we shut down. Why do you think that initially that's our go-to?
Well, that's a great question. Why do we do it is a multitude of reasons. Off the top of my head, the three that stick out are: we don't feel like we're being heard. We feel misunderstood. Honestly, let's just keep it a buck. Our feelings will get hurt.
Yeah.
We have feelings. We have emotions. So we shut down. That's another reason. Another one, a third one is maybe we feel like our partner or the person that we're standing in front of or we're withholding from doesn't, we feel that they can't handle what we have to say or get off our chest. So we just be like, you know, they're not going to understand it. So if they don't, we live in that if. They're not going to understand it. So if they don't understand it, then why am I going to waste my breath trying to convey it to that person if I know they're not going to understand it? You don't give that person the benefit of the doubt, or you don't give that benefit the power to say they do or do not understand. So that's one reason. Those are the three reasons I can think of just off the top of my head. But now diving back into each of those, it's been known that we don't, you know, they say when men don't have emotions, we're not emotion, we don't carry emotions, we don't. But in honesty, let's be honest, we are a little bit almost more emotional now than our counterparts. It's just because we're becoming more evolved. We realize that we don't have to be pigeonholed into that box of be a man, you know, hold it all in, you know, wear it on your chest, and, you know, keep pushing forward. We don't have to live in that world anymore. So we've come to that realization. The lack of being heard, it's the same thing. Like, women hate when you tell them when you're arguing. The one thing that women hate for you to say in an argument: calm down, relax. Why is that one way? It goes the same way when we're trying to express ourselves, and counterpart, anybody says, calm down, relax. Now you're trying to tell us how to regulate our feelings. You know, that's a problem. So we shut down. We'll shut down to either de-escalate the situation, because we know if we let it out right then and there, it's not going to come out right. So we just hold it in, sweep it under the proverbial rug. And when you do that, eventually the pile of shit that you sweep under the proverbial rug gets higher and higher and higher and higher. And now one day everything is all good. You're talking with your partner and everything is cool, and you walk across that proverbial mess and you trip and fall, and now you know you've made it a bigger deal than what it is. So I think that those are the three reasons why we don't feel like we're being heard. We don't think the person can actually take what we have to say about the situation at that time. And B or C is our feelings get hurt, or we're emotionally hurt.
Yeah.
But here's the question: do you think that when we shut down, we recognize it first? You think so? You think we recognize that we shut down first before anybody else says, "Damn, he just shut down on us"?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Like for me, I don't think so, because I think I think it's something that's subconscious, that we do. It's a level of protection.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally don't think it's something that we know. I think at times it can be done on purpose, right? But I think that's just something that's wired into us, and I believe that happens after a multitude of you dealing with the same shit over and over again, the same reactions, the same person, right? And your 3 reasons to me is based on being with a romantic partner,
Okay,
right? Because I don't believe that we have. I don't believe it is as intense as if we're dealing with like a friend or a coworker. But most of the time when our feelings get hurt, when we're not being heard, that's more of our partner, right? Go ahead.
I think it happens I've experienced it in the workplace.
Yeah, but more. I'm saying more often.
It's
than
predominantly
not.
in relationships, just
Right.
because that's what we're spending most of our time with.
Right.
But I've seen it happen in the workplace.
Definitely.
I've had people who were above me that didn't understand the level of management, and their way of talking and handling certain things wasn't a way that I would handle it. So I would just shut down because
Yeah. So
it's pointless.
I'm gonna make a statement, but then I'm gonna make a second statement.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me hold down. Let's get it, Bo.
All right. So we had an interesting aha moment on Monday, right?
Okay.
And is I think it's amazing because it shows 2 sides of the spectrum, where I am and where you are, right?
I know exactly where you want to go. Let's go.
It shows 2 sides.
Let's go.
And a lot of your responses to what I say is based on your perspective, and I believe you've been blessed.
Okay.
Right. You've been blessed more than most.
Okay.
Right. So we were talking about different topics for the podcast.
Right.
We were watching videos.
Right.
And we're watching a set of videos, and you see a title, and you're like, I'm like, yeah. You're like, so I'm like, Barron has not experienced. Trying to be politically correct here.
Bump that. Cook.
Barron has not. You have not experienced really a woman or wife that talks shit to you, that degrades you, that doesn't think you're a man.
True.
Right?
True.
A lot of men have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when we're talking about these things, you're like, what? What the hell does that mean? What are you talking about?
What? They let people talk?
Right. Because you haven't experienced that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like now when you say, yeah, I experienced it in the workplace, but yeah, that shit happens a lot in relationships. Right, a whole lot, and I get it.
Yeah,
but then it's amazing, and I know it's not perfect. And
right.
Don't let me say that. I'm not saying that, but I know that there, that you are fortunate to have one of the rare good ones.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's great for us because we're on opposite sides of the spectrum. Right. Yeah. You're married. I'm divorced. Right. So we can speak to both sides.
That's the first time you said that on the podcast.
Is what it is. Is what it is. Right. So that's the reality of it.
True.
Right.
Yep. Which I actually love it. I love that dynamic because people we're not 2 people on the same coin. Although people think that we have been boys since you would think the 90s. But and we're gonna get into that one episode. But people who listen to us, they can listen from 2 ends of the spectrum and see that there is commonalities and there are positives in both.
Right.
So we're not we're not too happily go marry, you know, like, life is great. You know, we're not that. And we're not like sitting here saying all women ain't shit.
Right.
And, you know, all of the, you know, we only struggle because of y'all. We're not doing that. So it's two different, we get two different views, but they're also, we see in the same thing from two different spectrums.
Yeah.
So I actually love that about us. So.
Yeah. and I like your three reasons. And I would say the reason that I'll talk about why I shut down, right?
Okay.
Why I didn't talk. Over a period of time, you get tired of the same battles over and over and over again, and you start to question who you are, question your value, your self-esteem, your self-worth. You start questioning if you are truly a result of what someone's saying about you, right? So at some point, you shut down and you stop. And I know for me, it took a very, very long time. It took years because I was so used to the battle, the tug of war, the dance. I was so used to having to prove myself, and that's what men do. We want to prove ourselves because we are warriors. We fight. We gather. We protect. We provide, and we constantly want to be the strongest, right? We constantly want to be the one that people admire and look up to. And what I realize is that sometimes we let the actions of others dictate our value. And I think that's a world thing, a person thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a human trait.
But with men, I believe, what am I trying to say here? With men, I believe that we tend to shut down when we finally figure out that this is a battle that I'm not going to win. This is a battle that not only not going to win, it's a battle that I can't fight anymore, right? Because I've been fighting, I've been going, I've been pushing, and I thought I was doing my job. I thought I was being a man, but when you come up against so much resistance, you do tend to question who you are. And then when the questions come, it's like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm done.
Right.
You know, I'm not talking anymore. But then the question comes, why are you talking no more? Right? And I know that I've been caught up in a cycle of trying to explain the reason why, trying to explain who I am. But on the other side, it's still not seen as something that's valid. So that makes us go deeper and more shutting down. And I think at that point, it becomes subconscious, and we do it just based on a trigger. We do it based on, okay, this is coming, this is about to happen, because I believe that we are great predictors, right? We can feel energy. We can sense, voice tone, voice inflection. We can sense body language, right? It's like, okay, you know what? Something is probably about to happen, and if we say, you know what, I see it, I feel it, I'm gonna try and go and get in front of this. Shit does not work all the time. You try and go in and be nice and try to make it not happen.
Right.
But I believe sometimes that actually makes it happen even more. But we get tired. I got tired of just fighting the same freaking battle every single year of my life. Yeah. And that's essentially why I stopped talking, why I shut down. You know what? I'm done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then it just becomes like a reflex at that point.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
It's just a natural reflex. Oh, so it's a if-then type of thing. If I feel this is coming, then I'm just going to build that fortress up. I'm just going to just shut down completely.
Right.
And that's a form of self-protection.
Right.
You know, I've experienced that. I've done that. I've done that where, you know, you get used to hearing things, and then you know when you've done your best, and then you get questioned. Like, okay, well, why is this? Like, all right, well, it's there. And then if you feel that conversation going to level 8, let's just say your conversation is going to level 8, just shut down completely.
Yeah.
This way you don't have to deal with it now. It's temporary, and at some point, you know, you get back on the right track.
Right.
But that shit happens in both spectrums. Yeah. You know, I think the difference is I look at it as a temporary thing.
What?
As far as the reason why I shut down. Like, I'll shut down, but I'm like, okay, well, I know I know we'll get back on the right track, so to speak. And it seems like with the difference, well, I know we'll get back on the right track. I have optimism that we'll get back on the right track, so I know this won't last. With you, it seems like it was a constant battle. So if it's a constant battle, then yeah, it's an all day thing, and I'm not gonna keep bumping my head up against the wall only for it to get. I'm not getting anywhere. So the best thing for me to do is shut down anytime it happens.
Yeah.
So
like going like with me, when you get to a point where something's breaking down, right, and you know that okay, you know what, eventually we'll get back to love in a sense. But you know in the back of your mind, how long is this shit gonna last? Right? How long is love gonna last? Because you know the cycle of your life, you know the cycle of your relationship. You know it, and it's the statement last question. You're saying that you know that this won't last, right?
Right.
So are you having thoughts of when's the next time that it's going to break down, or are you like this, it's over, it's done?
yeah, I don't have I don't have in the back of my mind that this is gonna happen again, or this is this week, so it's Thursday, so I know it's happening every Thursday.
Yeah.
No, that's just okay. It's almost like when you are boxing. Nobody boxes a full 12 rounds.
Right.
At some point, they break, and you
Right.
go to your corner,
Right.
get your shit together, and then you learn from your previous rounds, and then you come back together.
Right.
And then because boxing is a dance.
Right.
That's all it is. So that's pretty much what I look at it like is, if first off, marriage is never easy. It's
Right, of course.
never easy. And if anybody says it's the easiest thing, or everything is roses and all of that, they're lying. They're feeding you this false belief and this false image of what it is. No, marriage takes work, and it takes compromise, and most importantly, it takes communication. And if you lose any three of those, the shit's not gonna last.
Right.
It's not gonna last. And I think that's where we have our at our house, that's our foundation. That's our fundamental lowest common denominator type of thing. So we have to communicate. If I felt that way, then I would communicate that I feel this is happening way too much.
Right.
I'm shutting down, you're shutting down, but stick to your biblical principles too.
Right.
Never go to sleep angry, never go to sleep angry with your partner. No matter what it is, you never go to sleep angry, because who knows what happens in your sleep,
Right.
So we take those things, and we take them seriously, and we use them definitely when we get off track, because we're like, okay, well, I know my thought process when I'm angry and upset, like, is this it? That's what I'm thinking. Is this it? And I'm like, nah, this ain't it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you work on getting back on track.
Right.
If I ever thought that was it, then that's a conversation that,
When you say that was it, like what's it?
like the whole relationship, like
Gotcha.
is this relationship over?
Gotcha.
Is this it? Because everybody's not meant to be in your life for the entire part of your life. Everybody's not meant to be in your life forever.
Right.
So, I think that
Everybody or certain people?
I don't think everybody's supposed to be in your life all your life. Outside of family.
Okay, gotcha.
Outside
okay,
of family.
Gotcha. Okay.
Outside of family. Because life is cyclical.
I'm like, what?
No, life is cyclical. Like, you're going to have a best friend of 40 plus years. Can't tell you the last time I seen him.
Okay.
I can't tell you the last time. I miss him. That's my boy.
Right.
But I can't tell you the last time I seen him. Now, the last time I talked to him, yesterday.
Okay.
We chop it up every other day.
Yeah.
So, I have other friends that I've had, since 5th grade and high school and stuff like that. I don't talk to them at all.
Yeah.
We served a purpose in each other's lives.
Yeah.
And it's no rhyme or reason or no ill will or anything like that. It's just, as you grow, things change.
Right.
So I look at that with the same thing with relationships. Like, okay, if it's, I got to phrase it the right way. If marriage is that hard, Who would you rather? Who would you rather? You see how I worded it? Who would you rather do the work with? You know you got to put in the work. You know that it's going to be a roller coaster.
Right.
Who would you rather do that with? And if my answer ever changes, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely a roller coaster. But you know, some rides are roller coasters without that safety belt being latched down.
Or faulty safety belt.
Faulty.
Yep.
You're constantly flying out of the seat, and you ride just to survive that day or survive to the next time, right? So I wrote the book called, Living in Survival Mode, right? That we have in our community. And that came from just experience, right? Because you don't know what you're going through. You can't see it while you're in it, right? So when you come out and realize that, damn, this is how I've been living, and everybody that comes into your life, if you look at it for what it is, it's a lesson.
Right.
They got you to a certain point, right? And like once their task is complete, once your lesson is complete, then you move to the next. Because I believe that anything can be worked out and managed with two willing people. You have to be willing by more than just saying it with your mouth, but your actions and your want to be a better person has to be relevant. I mean, it has to be evident, right? We got to see it. You just saying, you know what, I want you, but behind the scenes not doing the work and or doing the same things. That's not saying that you want me or I want you.
Exactly.
And I know that the human race is about evolution, right? And we can't stay the same every year of our life. We have to constantly grow and become better, and personally and relationally. But I believe the relationship works because that person, that husband and wife, they're working on themselves individually, right? Because you are still two individuals coming together to become one. But individually, you have to be better every single year of your life. And if you're stuck in a situation where it's the same thing for the past 20 years, raising my hand, then you have to really
open it up today.
you have to really evaluate your life, right? You have to evaluate how you're growing. You got to evaluate how or both of you guys are growing. Because if you sit in a situation for so long and you feel that you're growing, but the relationship's staying the same, how much are you growing, right? Because if you're still on either end tolerating the same proverbial shit and you're working on yourself, how much are you actually growing?
Right.
And that's one thing that I had to come to radical acceptance on, right? I can do all this growing and listening and becoming better and learning and reading and getting coaching and getting therapy and having all these mentors. But if I find myself in the same situation year after year, how much is that helping me? Or how much am I implementing what I'm learning?
Right.
Because if I was better, I wouldn't be stuck in the same position.
Right. Or at least you'd be better versed in navigating it. If the situation came up again, you'd be better versed and more equipped to deal with the situation.
Yeah.
More knowledgeable of what to do in that situation. So, if you're not using it, knowledge ain't power.
Right.
Application is. Right. So application of knowledge is power. Yeah. So if you're getting all of these tools and you're not using it, then it's time to grab a mirror and you got to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
So
I believe people, attempt to use the tools that they're taught, but they get so caught up in trying to save something or someone that they can't save. So they compromise and pull back. And like me, I thought that I was the one that can fix everything. If I did A, B, C, D through all the way A through Z, things will be good, right?
But that's just you doing all the work.
that's me doing the work. But again, I thought that was the fix, because again, I'm wired as a fixer.
Right.
I'm thought, and then I was told that you got to do it, right? So after so long, you start to believe certain things that you're told. No matter, I don't give a shit if you're 6'4", 255, right? Your mind is smaller than your body physically.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Physically. Right. But if you let things penetrate your mind and get into your head day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, you're going to start to believe some of those lies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But then you got to come to a point where damn, I got to figure out who I am separately from what I'm being told. Right. Yeah. Because I can go out to the world, to people, to you, to just being out there in the world doing my thing, right? And I'm edified, I'm lifted up, damn, I get so much edification. But going home to have the opposite is
counterproductive.
It's counterproductive.
Yeah.
I thought in a sense, be fucking real, that outside I was living a lie, and inside was who I was.
I get that.
Right?
I get that.
But that wasn't true, though.
Right. No. So the reason why you felt that way was because of maybe the close regard you held that person to. Yeah. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. And I think that's where. So it's crazy because we talk about edification and edifying.
Right.
I used to think that shit was corny. I ain't gonna lie. I used to think that shit was corny. I used to see people and they would be talking about, this is my significant other, whether it be husband or wife.
Yeah.
He's so amazing. I'm like, y'all putting on a front for the cameras. Y'all trying to live this perfect life in front of everybody here. But no, I think like I try to do it to everybody that's around me.
Yeah.
Whether it's my son, my daughter, my wife, you, anybody that we're coaching, because you never know when edification is important.
Right.
Edification shows respect to the other person. It shows the person that you respect them. It shows the other person that you see them.
Yeah.
And it just shows them that, okay, I do have value.
I see you, right. I like that.
Regardless of, and not even what other people say, regardless what I may self-talk and self-sabotage in my own head.
Yeah.
I think I'm that, but when somebody validates and edifies you, you kind of like reassures yourself of who you truly are versus the negative self-talk that you have. So I just learned how important edification is probably about maybe 5 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
That shit was corny to me.
And I'm gonna just give a little disclaimer here.
I'm nervous.
how your face just changes. So, I'm talking a bit about what I experienced in life, right? But just so we're clear, what I'm talking about is what I experienced, but it's just that part of my life is over. Right. It's done. I've moved past. I've healed from it.
Learned.
I've learned from it, and it made me a better man. Yep. Right. The person that I was when I was married, I'm not that guy now. Right. He's gone. I mean, honestly, I buried his ass. Right. And that's something that I want to be clear about, is the fact that who people say that you are does not dictate who you are.
Absolutely.
Right. Someone's opinion of you is not your business. Someone's opinion of you does not dictate who you are. But you have to come to a point where you realize that. Yeah. You realize that, what, I hear it, I want it from you, but I know that's not me, because one is that because I serve a God that will never talk to me like that. That will never put that out about me, right? Mm-hmm. So I know that if I'm hearing lies about me and who I am and my character and me as a man, whoever, I know that's not from God. and I know that that's a lie. So if God tells me, bro, it's like everything that you hear from me is positive. It's the truth. And if you're being talked about, that's not from me.
Right.
So get up and walk in who I called you to be. And I had to do that, right? It took a while, because you have to walk through certain things. You have to heal from certain things. And sometimes it will get dark. Sometimes it will get painful. Sometimes you will go through a depression, but just look at the other side of it, right? And when you're with someone for so long and you've built a life and you've had kids and all that, in a sense, you don't see your life without them, right? In a sense.
Yeah.
But
I can see that.
But if you stay focused to the truth and stay focused to who God is and how God calls you and what He promised, you'll be okay. Right?
Absolutely.
And you will come out better and stronger because I'm a living version of that, right? Because I didn't think I would be here today. I didn't think so, right? Because I didn't see my life as different, but now life is better. And life is more exciting. And I've had more, like every single day that I go out, I'm getting edified. I'm getting poured into. And I think I was before, but now I'm starting to believe it and see it now because that old shit is gone. The old me is gone.
Right.
Right.
It's and these are all right. So this is how I look at that. People are going to have opinions,
right? Whether
they're good opinions or bad, they're opinions. You never get too high or low. Kobe once said, I got Kobe quotes all through my head. People always hate the great ones. They're going to have their opinions, so let them do their job and have their opinions of you, but it shouldn't define or dictate how you move.
Right.
I look at it like they can say whatever they want, but I'm a son of a king.
Amen.
I'm a son of a king. So
that makes me a king.
That makes me a king.
Right.
So why would I listen to, now we've talked about this, whether that opinion is coming from someone who's closer to you or not. Mm-hmm. The only commonality in all of that is the power you have.
Right.
So I let you in this close to me. That's why I value your opinion.
Right.
That's why I let it affect me the way it did, because I let you in.
Right.
I let you in close to me.
I did. Yep.
So in order to protect me, you're still going to have your opinion of me, but now you're not going to be as close to me as I wanted you to, or as I let you into.
Right.
I have that power. Why? I'm a son of a king.
Right.
Anybody in my presence is because I allowed it. I allow people into my presence, and I value the people who I hold close to me.
Right.
And if I don't hold you close to me, I mean, we can be cool, but how you feel about me doesn't do anything for me. What that person eat don't make me shit. We gonna pause right there, but that's a fact. And that's an actual lyric. Yeah. I won't go into the artist, but that is an actual lyric.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't affect me as much as it, as someone who's close to me. That's where now if someone's close to me and they are degrading me and tearing me down, it gets tough. It gets tough there. You lived it.
Tough's an understatement.
You lived through it. Yeah. Tough's an understatement. I'm really putting I'm putting it light, but
and going through that type of life, it taps into us as a man and our survival techniques and our natural instinct to fight against an enemy. All right, because at the time it's an enemy. You mentioned something earlier about how we build a fortress, right? Or we're a fortress, and I forgot what you were talking about. But when you said that, I was thinking about. I used to watch the show Game of Thrones, right?
Okay.
Back in the day, and
I've never seen an episode.
they will have castles and fortresses, and inside there are people living, right? There are men there. When people outside came to try and conquer the forces, throwing arrows and fiery arrows and darts and trying to get into the fortress, what did the man behind the walls do? They fought back.
Right.
They threw their own arrows.
Right.
You're not coming here because I know that from what I see, what I experience, you're coming in here to destroy me. So I'm going to defend my fortress. Versus that same fortress, you see two horses ride up and people are coming, no weapons, no threat. Let's talk about our differences. Let's see if we can come to an agreement with your family, my family, your kingdom, my kingdom, and then they come in and figure it out. But if you, and I'm gonna say this shit because it's real, if you attack a man, he's going to fight back. Maybe not physically,
No.
right? Not physically, but verbally, because that's in our nature. That's who we are, especially if it's just happening over and over and over and over again. And I'm gonna say that some men will not say anything for years. They will take it. They will deal with it for years and years and years.
Take that.
They will deal with it for years, right?
Right.
But one day, what's going to happen? They're going to explode and
They
pop.
gonna explode, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Some do it over. See, that was your fault, Sean. You laughed at that one.
Oh man.
Hilarious.
We ain't growing up enough.
No. Okay, back to business. Be serious. Back to business. Okay. Okay.
Let's get it.
But we can only take it for so long. Like me. Damn, I keep saying you. Wait, don't say anything, bro.
Oh, no, I'm bad.
I need a sip of water. Hold on. I need a sip of water. Hold on. We only deal with certain things for so long.
Yeah.
Right? I lost my thoughts. See,
You said you can only take it for so long.
or deal with them for so long. Eventually, we're going to explode. We're going to, fight back, right? Some guys do it, in their day to day. Some guys just wait and wait and wait, but it's dangerous. Right? It's dangerous, and like I said before in previous episode, is that one day I had my defining moment, right? And I'm gonna keep dropping this name. One day I will talk about my experience at Walmart, right? I will, because that was my defining moment. That was when I just broke, right? Yeah. And some bad shit happened.
Yeah.
Right. But that's what happens to men when we, in a sense, have to keep it together.
Or we feel like we have to keep it together.
We feel we have to,
Yeah.
or we're up against a constant, what the fuck is going on? I'm doing everything that I can to live right, to be right, to protect, to provide, to be a good father, to be a good man, to be a good whatever. I'm doing all of this to the best of my ability, but what I'm receiving is that it's like, yeah, bro, but it's not good enough. You're doing this, but you're not doing this.
Right.
You're doing this, but what about this? You think you're this, but you're this, right? And I believe over time that gets to a man, and he's like, you know what? Fuck it. And at some point, it has nothing to do with love, right? Because what it doesn't. It has to do with you to start loving yourself, because I believe that we as men don't love ourselves enough, right? We put everything, everybody before us.
Yeah.
And you and I harp all the time. It's like, that's amazing. That's good, hero, right? But how much better off would everybody in your life be if you love yourself first, take care of yourself first? How much more could you love them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we, in a sense, give people something that we don't have. It's like, how can we love our kids and love our wives and love whoever if we truly don't love ourselves or know what that truly means to love ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Because we have this vision of it,
Yeah.
but are we truly living out love for ourselves?
And I think that's the overall message for us. Like, yes, we are going to take care of others before we take care of ourselves. Yes, we are going to endure more than we should. We're going to do that. It's how the world works. It's how it is. We're going to be that way.
Right.
So what do you do? How do you make sure that your proverbial bowl is not empty, or your battery? How do you make sure that your battery isn't drained by giving, and if nobody is pouring into you or putting deposits
you're good.
deposits back, then you have to do it yourself. You have to make sure that you know who you are, what makes you happy, and be intentional on that. Like, you don't have to be selfish in a sense, but you have to be like, okay, my battery's at 50%, bro. I got to go do something for me. I got to, you have to talk to yourself that way. I have to do something for me, regardless of whatever it is.
Right.
Because if your battery's at 50 and you do something for you and that gives you a 40% spike, then you're at 90%.
Yeah.
Your tribe, your kids can possibly give you a little bit more, even your significant other may ask you, maybe on a good day that day, and may ask you, how was your day? Okay, that's about 3%. Like, you took time to inquire about my day. So now, instead of it being at a 90, I'm at a 95 or a 96. So, on a good day, that's your significant other is doing that. So, but you did the work yourself by pouring in and edifying and validating yourself and recharging your battery, so that you don't be empty, because you have to, we're picking up kids, we're going to practices and sporting events, and we have to make sure that they're on time, so that now we have to make sure that they're prepared, so that they're on time, and that they honor time, and that they honor responsibilities, because we're teaching them, especially in sports, you're teaching them how to honor responsibilities. And if you become a star out of it, great.
Right.
But you're going to learn discipline. You're going to learn accountability. You're going to learn how to honor your word. If you say you're going to be a teammate, then you're not only letting yourself down, you're letting your team down. These are the things that we're teaching our kids in sports. These are the things, the fundamental, foundational things that we teach. I don't think the female perspective is they just play sports, and it's an extracurricular activity, and we'll go and we'll cheer. We'll be a soccer mom. We'll work at
funny.
we'll do that.
I experienced that. Yeah. It's like we know what it takes to actually get the job done, and not just just there cheering and recording. Right.
Yeah. No, we're teaching life lessons.
It takes a lot.
Yeah, we're teaching life lessons, and these are the things that go through our heads when we are doing these things for our kids. Yeah. So we have to make sure that we are present, and by being present, we have to take time out for ourselves and do the things that give us joy and that validate us, and be around those who edify and nurture and cultivate the gifts that we have. So
I think a lot of guys, especially like in our group, I think our last Thursday call, I think you talked about the proverbial man cave in the head.
Yep.
But a lot of guys have their garages where they have their tools or their recliners, or they have their man caves, and I think that we should start taking that stuff seriously, and knowing that this is a necessity. I'm not in here just to play around. It's so I can relax and reset and I can be better for everybody who I'm responsible for, everybody who I love, and more importantly, everybody who loves me.
Yeah.
Right. So we gotta start taking these things seriously, because it's very important, because things can get to you over the years, and we don't feel it. It's like stress and blood pressure. These are symptoms that we cannot feel, but eventually it's going to, over the years, it's breaking our body down. We don't feel it, but eventually that's something that's going to give us a heart attack, a stroke, or whatever. But it's never something that's sudden.
Nope.
So that's why I think we have to constantly take inventory of what we're allowing into our life and our energy and our bodies. Like, what words are we allowing? Is a person that you're with, are they truly taking care of you, or truly care about what you're going through, how you're feeling? Do they care? And honestly, I'll tell you, bro, the words don't mean shit. Mm-mm. Someone telling you, yeah, I care about you, that doesn't mean anything. Mm-mm. Show me the action, right? Show me that, you know what, I can tell that my babe had a day that was just horrible. I know I got some shit I want to say. Let me wait until he's stress-free, right? Because if I bring it to him now, one, I don't give a shit about how he feels. Two, if he's stressed out, that means maybe he's a bit irritated, and that conversation is going to be one that maybe won't go well. But all in all, I just truly care about his well-being, his life, and I want to make sure that this dude lives, because we technically, as far as the numbers, we die before women. Yeah. Right? Because everything is held in, and we have stress, and we're out there fighting, but there is no level of us to release that pressure, that stress, right? It's not there. Mm-hmm. So there's a story I heard a while back. This guy, and it was made up, right? He went to a doctor, and the doctor said, you know what, you're going through a lot of stress, and I know that it's your wife, right? I know she's stressing you out, right? If she doesn't stop stressing you out, you're going to die. You cannot allow her to bring any more stress. And the doctor said, you know what, I'm gonna call your wife. I'm gonna call her myself and tell her that if she doesn't stop, you're gonna die. So he's driving home. He parks. Wife comes out yelling, "Oh my God, the doctor called me and said you're gonna die." He's like, I'm not gonna stop nagging you. You just gonna die.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
That's what I heard.
So it was a joke, but it's like, it's like you have to, like, the wife is like, she's not going to stop nagging you. She'd rather you die than her stop nagging. Right. It was a joke, but it was a bit. It made some sense. Yeah. Right.
Because they don't deem it as like a life or death situation.
No,
they don't deem it as that. They just like
it is.
Relax, calm down.
It's life or death. Yeah. And if that's the way that it was looked at, I think that because right now, half of marriages in a divorce, half, and it's not infidelity, it's not finances, it's because two people really can't come and communicate and really care for each other like they're supposed to. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of selfishness. No, only my feelings matter. Only what I feel matters. Only what I want matters. What you do is secondary, because two people can do the exact same thing, but one person is going to hype up what they did so much and really undervalue what they did as well, right? Mm-hmm. You can do the exact same thing, right? But because it's all about my feelings, it's all about me, and I don't care how upset you are. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter. What matters right now is me, and I think the level of selfishness is the reason that most of these marriages, half of marriages, ended in divorce.
I would like to find out how many of those marriages started with premarital counseling.
Very, 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 very little.
Yeah.
Very, very, very little. Yeah. And not just that, but ongoing.
Yeah.
Counseling.
Yeah. Because if we are about to get married, so for me and my wife, we waited. We waited a while. Like I had to check the Carfax, bro. I had to make sure. I had to make sure like I was comfortable with the quote unquote bad things. For me, it was bad. You know, for me,
Red flags.
Yeah, the red flags. I had to look back and see like, all right, these. You know, I'm not about to get married, and because marriage to me is a forever thing. It's supposed to be a forever thing, but realistically, you know, I'm not going to stick around if my health is involved. You know, and I wouldn't want my wife to do the same thing.
Right.
But you don't go get married just for the sake of having a wedding. You know, you don't go get married just for the sake of having a reception.
Some do.
You know, and therein lies your problem, because if you are a bridezilla or a groomzilla to the point where, oh no, my flowers have to be this, or I have to have X amount of groomsmen or X amount of bridesmaids, or I'm not doing this if I don't get that specific room, or I'm not going through with this if it happens on this day as opposed to this day. I'd have never wanted to get. You got to look at that like these are some selfish needs, and a person that can get married, go down to downtown to City Hall and get married and stay married for the rest of their lives, versus a person that has an extravagant wedding, a destination wedding that lasts 6 months.
Right.
Which would you rather have?
Yeah.
You know,
people invest more in the wedding than their actual marriage.
Marriage is a lifelong journey.
That's crazy.
I would rather. I had my receptions at my in-laws' house.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't about the party. It was about who was there.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted my family there,
Yeah.
but it wasn't about the party in a sense, because we looked at it like, okay, now starts the journey.
Yeah.
This starts the journey. And it was never, we did counseling, and it was never one of the things the counselor asked me was, what is your expectation of marriage? What do you see different in marriage that you see now? What do you expect? What are your changes? What do you expect?
Yeah.
And our answers were pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I don't see anything different. Like I'm not expecting home cooked meals every day if you never cooked before.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting, you know, a crazy list of things. You know, you clean the house every week. You clean the house every other day because you're a wife now. Right. You're not supposed to go out because you're a wife now. You're not supposed to have your friends or have your life because you're a wife now. Right. That's crazy. Right. So I had to come to the realization, like, what made me want to marry you, what made me want to even look at you that way, was I saw how your family structure was. I saw who you were when you weren't outside, so to speak, you know. So I know who you truly are, and I fuck with that person. I fuck with that person. That's cool. So I wasn't, you know, you don't look at it. Marriage is a fucking journey, bro. It's a journey,
and it can be a beautiful journey too. It can be one of the best things you've ever done in your life. And one thing that we have to be responsible for is that we're all a product of our environment. We all grew up with imperfect parents, imperfect people, and they've imparted things in our lives that, you know, may or may not been good, or let's just say not been good, right? But after, when you're growing up and you're with your family, you are not responsible for what happens to you. You're not responsible for that because you're a kid, right? But when you grow up, you're responsible for healing what happened to you, and you can't in your entire marriage, in your entire life, continue to blame how you grew up for how you act and how you talk and how you move. Right. You have to be responsible for your healing and becoming better. You have to be, because if you constantly blame, oh, this is what my parents did, or this is how I grew up, and it's not my fault, and I grew up in pain. Yeah, I get that. But if it was so painful, now how about now let's heal from that, become better, and not transfer that shit to our kids, because that's called a generational curse.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right? So that's what we have to do.
Yep. And for somebody to say that, like, you know, I have all this trauma from, you know, this is how I was raised, this is who I am, this is it. that just shows that you're stuck in a sense where you can't or won't. You don't want to grow. You don't want to learn from this experience. You don't want to be better from this experience. You don't want to use those negative examples to create positive results for your lineage. You know, I've never had a father, so he'll be all right.
Right.
You know, he'll be all right. I never had a dad. Look how good I turned out. Yeah, you just passing it down now. So you want him to pass it down to his kids. Right. So no, you gotta, if the one thing that I learned, if to be a good, if I didn't have a great father and my father was never there and I had a son or a daughter or whatever, a kid, and that's one of the first things I want to do is be present. Yeah. So one of the very first things I'm going to do, and I'll figure the next part out as the life goes on, but mine was never there. And I turned out like this in spite of, not because. I turned out like this in spite of. So what I'm going to do now is be more present for my kids, more of this. Growing up, I never got that edification. I never got that, oh, good job, or, I see your grades. Or I never got that. I never got that. I always wanted that. So what do I do as a father? I make sure I do that for my kids. I make sure that I edify them. And now that I'm thinking about it and talking about it out loud, remember I said that I thought edification was corny? Right. That's where it stems from. That's where it stems from. Okay. Just now, I just thought about that.
Aha moment, huh?
An aha moment. This should have been called the aha moment.
All good. Well, that is the truth about him.
That is the truth about him.
So
that is very much the truth about him, and we cooked.
As always. Good podcast, bro.
We cooked. Yep.
Good show. All right, guys, like Brian said, as usual, so this podcast has been of value to you. Please like, and please share, subscribe, because we want to get this message out there to the world.
Speaking of subscribers, I want to take a minute to thank our subscribers. Boom. That shit jumped from one number to another number.
Fast.
I see it. We see it. So thank
you so much.
We appreciate you. Continue to share. Continue to subscribe to anybody that needs it. Yeah.
Thanks for watching. See you guys next week. Peace.